Hello, welcome back to the channel, and this is a channel where we give you reviews, maybe a few playthroughs, but don't do unboxings. We generally like to talk a load of bollocks about tabletop gaming in general, and in this video we're going to be talking about our top 10 war games that are suitable for beginners. And when we're talking about war games, we're talking about any game where you are going to be entering into a scrap with one or more other players, right? So just remember, if your super duper favourite war game ain't on this list, that is because A, we haven't played it, or B, we think it's shit. So remember, if you're new here, then please consider subscribing to this channel, hit the like button and all that YouTube bullshit. See you after this. Bollocks. So this list is comprised of 10 war games that we think are suitable for beginners. The list is ordered sort of in a complexity type thing. We're going to go from the really simple ones all the way down to the most complex ones for beginners, yeah? But we might deviate from that a little bit when we're talking about our favourite games, right? In other words, I haven't got a Scooby-Doo what I'm doing. So number 10 on this list is a game that I used to play quite a bit when I was a kid. I remember my grandmother, God rest her soul, picked this up in a jumble sale and brought it around my house, and I thought it was absolutely fucking fantastic. This game is called Latac, yeah? At least that is the version that I got way back in the 70s, yeah? You might know it as Stratego. Yeah, I know a few of you, especially you fucking snobs right at the back, are probably sneering at this one. But if it wasn't for games like Stratego, you wouldn't have a lot of games that you are playing now. And probably a lot of you probably wouldn't be playing board games right now if it wasn't for these very, very simple two-player games that you used to get in the 80s, right? In Latac, you are going to get a load of different units. They're going to have different values, and you're going to be placing them on the board facing you. Each unit will be able to move one space, and when you are opposite another unit, you're going to turn it around, and then whichever unit has the highest value will defeat the other unit. But each unit's going to have some sort of special ability. You might have a spy that'll be able to covertly move around a map. We might have mines that will just blow the fuck out of everything, yeah? Once you have captured your opponent's flag, you're going to win the game, and that's basically it. Okay, it's a little bit old, which means the rules are a little bit dated, but it's still fun to pull this one out and just have a little blast from the past, you know what I mean? So number 9 on this list is a game called Risk Europe. If you have watched this channel for a little while, you will know I don't really hate Risk as much as a lot of people do. I actually still enjoy playing it, but this is probably, aside from Risk Legacy, is the best version of Risk that we've played, right? In this game, you will be trying to take control of a certain number of castles, yeah? You're going to be doing this by playing order cards, yeah? You're going to place 2 order cards face down. The first one is going to let you tax another player's units, or you're going to be able to build like siege engines and get extra units and shit like that. And the second order card is going to allow you to expand and move into other territories and basically capture other people's castles, yeah? You'll do this in the age-old way of rolling dice, and it's like the same sort of thing as Risk, where you get 3 dice for attackers and 2 for defenders, yeah? Risk Europe was a very, very pleasant surprise for us. A lot of the later iterations of Risk were completely like dog shit, yeah? This one was completely different, yeah? It doesn't really feel like Risk in any way, shape or form, save for the combat, yeah? So it's just a nice little area control game, and the component quality is absolutely super duper, yes? If you can find Risk Europe and you're not a snob like those fuckers at the back, then Risk Europe is definitely worth a look. So number 8 on this list is a 2-player war game that some people think rivals another game that might be on this list. I don't think it's quite as good as that. In fact, I don't think it's as good as that one at all. It's Undaunted. I'm not really talking about any specific iteration of Undaunted. Undaunted Normandy, North Africa, Stalingrad. There are shitloads, yeah? And I think they're going to sort of diversify away from the Second World War theme into like some sort of fantasy theme or something like that. I could be wrong about that, but anyway, it doesn't matter. This is a deck building game, basically. You're going to have some tiles on the map. You're going to get objectives, could be scenario based shit, and you'll be using these cards to get initiative to improve your fighting forces and move your troops around the battlefield, doing over the fucking Nazis, yeah? It is a little bit fiddly. It's got a lot of tokens and you've got to know what they mean, and to be honest, opponent quality isn't that great, yeah? But insofar as a relatively short 2-player war game, Undaunted did something a little bit different, yeah? And for that, it's worth having a look at if you're not really well versed in these types of war games, you know what I mean? So number 7 on our list of our top 10 war games for beginners is a game that isn't really a traditional war game. It's a game by Steve Jackson Games called Car Wars. I had this many, many years ago, probably all the way back in 1982, saved up my paper round money, yeah, and I bought the little pencil case version of this one. There was basically fuck all in it, yeah? It was just a couple of pieces of paper track, a rule book and some counters. You even had to cut the counters out of the cardboard. They weren't perforated or anything like that. And what I like liked about this is that you had to build your car and populate it with weapons before you went out and drove it. And then you just go out, use the really, really simple rule set to increase your speed, choose different maneuvers that were going to get you in position to pull the fucking trigger and destroy your opponents, yeah? Car Wars grew from this pencil case looking piece of shit into a sprawling RPG. After this, we picked up the Car Wars Deluxe Edition, which probably isn't actually deluxe now. Car Wars was recently reprinted last year in a 6th edition, but it was fucking way too expensive, you know what I mean? So we haven't touched that with a barge pole because the pencil case version of Car Wars is still charming and it still packs a punch even 40 odd years after it was first released, you know what I mean? So number 6 on our list of war games that are suitable for beginners is Star Wars XWing, the miniatures game. We're talking specifically about first edition because I haven't played the second edition. We bought a few ships for the first edition and then they come out with second edition, and there was no way I was going to be paying extra money for shit that I already own. Even though you can get a crossover pack, I wasn't going to do that, yeah? What a fucking bump. But anyway, in Star Wars XWing, it's a points-based system. You'll be choosing different ships, using up points to get better weapons and better cards for the ships. Stick them out on a map. You'll have a scenario, which we like to play the basic skirmish game, yeah, and then you'll just be going out and blowing the fuck out of people, and they'll be trying to do the same to you. The miniatures were pre-painted, which was an absolute bonus because I can't paint for shit, and you could stick Chewbacca in a fucking X-Wing, and all the major characters out of the first 3 Star Wars movies are in here. There was none of this sort of made up bullshit, or at least at the beginning there wasn't. I suppose when they ran out of ships they had to make up some fucking crap, but we stopped buying stuff by then, so it didn't really matter, yeah. But it's just something about taking out Luke Skywalker and blowing up fucking Darth Vader in his Imperial TIE fighter that sort of makes my testicles rise up inside my pelvis, yeah. So number 5 on this list of our top 10 ball games for beginners is a very, very simple card-based war game called 1812, The Invasion of Canada. This is essentially a cube pusher. Each player is going to take on the role of one of 5 factions. It does work best at 5 players because everybody's going to be controlling at least one faction, but you're going to be using cards to move your units around the board, whether they are moving on water or on land, and you'll be rolling dice to try and destroy other units, taking control of a number of forts before all players have played their truce cards, yeah? Once that happens, then the player with the most forts will win. I absolutely love this game. It's so simple. It's just a bunch of cubes on a map. But in terms of tension and trying to mitigate the luck of the random dice, you can't really get much better than 1812 Invasion of Canada. It's a super war game for 5 players. Doesn't really work with a less player count than that. Maybe 4, because to be honest, the Native Americans are a little bit weak. They're just going to be supporting the British and the Canadians and basically running away a lot. But yeah, great war game for beginners. Loads and loads of dice chucking, and it's fantastic for people as thick as pig shit like me. So number 4 on our list of the top 10 war games that's suitable for beginners is Axis and Allies, yeah? Suppose it doesn't really matter which version of Axis and Allies you are going to get hold of, but we have dumped all the rest of them for the Anniversary Edition, which we believe is the best way to play this game, yeah? The Anniversary Edition allows for 6 players. Okay, you don't really want to be playing with Italy because they don't really do much, yeah? But you're going to be taking on the role of one of the countries that's involved in World War II. You're either going to be on the Axis side or on the Allied side. And it's sort of an age-old thing where you'll be trying to take control of different cities. That's going to give you objectives, yeah? You're going to be spending cash to bolster your forces, moving them around the map, and having dice-based combat, yeah? This is an epic game. It can take anywhere from 4 hours to 8 hours to play. It's an all-day event for us. It does require a lot of patience setting this shit up, and there can be some confusion as to which miniatures refer to which type of boat or whatever. But once you get going, once you get comfortable with the rules, you can't really beat Axis and Allies for a standout war game, which allows 6 players to get stuck in, you know what I mean? So number 3 on this list of our top 10 war games for beginners is a 2-player game that tries to simulate the timeline of the Cold War. It is Twilight Struggle, yeah? This is a card-based game. It's going to take place through a certain number of epochs through the Cold War. You're going to have the early war, mid-war and late war, and you'll be playing cards with certain events that took place, using the actions on these cards to get influence in different regions. There's even a little bit of space race shit in here where you can be the first to put a geezer in space and all that sort of stuff. stuff. But basically, once a player's got a certain amount of influence, they're going to win the game. I love Twilight Struggle. It's a relatively simple game. Yeah, there is sort of some kind of random luck. You're going to be taking some actions that just require you to roll a couple of dice, hoping that you're going to be able to get a certain number. But the way the game makes you feel as if you're actually passing through the monumental events that took place during the Cold War. You can't really beat that, you know what I mean? And for that reason, it's not only one of the best war games that you could play when you're first starting out, yeah, it's also one of the best games you could play, full stop. So number 2 on this list is a 4-player war game that is basically a board and a bunch of cylinders with a few playing cards thrown in. It's a game called Friedrick. In this game, you'll be moving your generals around a map. You'll be trying to take control of different objectives. You'll also have to be mindful of your supply train. It has to be within a certain number of spaces of your generals. Yeah, if that supply train gets busted up, then you're going to be in some deep shit. Combat takes place through a novel system of playing cards. Yeah, you'll see on the board there are different sections which have playing card suits on, so you'll only be able to play cards depicting those suits when you get into a fight. Yes, you've got to be very mindful of that fact and not just roll in thinking you can do somebody over. Friedrich is an incredible game and it doesn't really look like much, you know what I mean? You're just going to have a basic map of Prussia and Austria and France, but it's one of them games that the more you play it, the more you sort of understand how it works, yeah? And I think there's even like a sort of a world championship of this game, yeah? And one of the novel features of this game is that if you're playing Prussia/Friedrich, you are going to be referred to as a schizophrenic player because you're going to be paired with an ally, but you're also going to have to stab him in the back at some point, yeah? So there's this sort of game within a game going on. I love Friedrich. It never gets old. It's one of them games where you sort of feel as if you're sort of semi getting better at it the more you play it, yeah? And that's what you want from a war game, isn't it? So number 1 on this list, and yeah, you know it's going to be this one, it is Memoir 44. This is the game that you should be playing if you want an entry-level war game, yeah? It starts as a 2-player game when you get the base set, but you can expand it to 4 players or even 8 players with the Overlord scenarios, yeah? This is a card-based game. You're going to be drawing a certain number of cards into your hand. You'll be playing them to move your units around a map and then attack them, yeah? It's dice-based combat. You roll some dice, and if you get the symbol of the unit that you are facing, they will be destroyed. Most of the scenarios mean you have to take control of a certain number of medals for destroying units, and there might be some special areas on the board where you can get medals as well, yeah? There is a massive amount of content for this game. There's loads of different armies that you get. There's the breakthrough map that you can get, which expands the board and makes the game a little bit longer. And obviously, like we said, there is the Overlord scenarios, which feature these huge battle maps. You could play with up to 8 players, and that is our favourite way of playing this game. So Memoir 44, you can start off as simple as you like, and over time you can add to the game, making it as big as my penis. Well, probably not that big. So I've said it before, I'll say it again. Memoir 44 is the war game that you should go to if you are into the business of chucking rocks at each other, right? So there you go. That is our top 10 war games that you should be playing if you are a beginner. What games have we left out, yeah? Tell us in the comments below if there's a game that you feel should be on this list and it's not on here. But until then, remember, if you're new here, then please consider subscribing to this channel with the like button and all that YouTube bullshit. See you next Tuesday.